Still infertile, huh? Pathetic. My daughter's a stunner and a genius. Truly a pitiful middle-aged woman. You've lost all your charm as a woman. I never imagined they'd chased me down just to say these things. I'm appalled by Mike and his friend's childish thoughts. I quietly finished my coffee without responding. Mike chose his mistress over me. I'm astounded by their absurdity since our reunion. It's regrettable to think I was married to such a person. The real victims here are the kids. How should I get back at these two crazies? They deserve to suffer more than I did. My name is Jane, 45 years old. Mike was a year senior at the company we joined as new employees. He was so competent, I initially thought he had more experience. Our department was close-knit with regular social gatherings. At one such event, I ended up sitting next to Mike, and we started talking more. I quickly fell for Mike, who was kind and proficient. One day, Mike asked me out for a meal, just the two of us. He felt the same way, and on the way home from dinner, he asked me out. Naturally, I accepted, and our relationship began. Everything went smoothly, and a year flew by without major arguments. On our 1-year anniversary, Mike proposed, and we decided to marry. I was 23, just a year into the job, when Mike said, "Jane, I want you to stay home." So I resigned. Early married life was fun. I wanted to be with Mike forever. Then, cohabitation started. Initially, love overshadowed his faults. Mike's parents pressured us for grandchildren. Mike agreed, saying the sooner the better, so we started trying for a baby. Initially, we didn't consult a doctor, thinking it would happen eventually, but it wasn't so simple, and the pressure from the in-laws grew. "Mike and Jane are young. Try a bit harder. We want to see our grandchild soon." They'd say this almost daily, and I began to feel cornered. Susan, Mike's mom, only spoke to me about this, so Mike was unaware of the pressure. I read an article saying stress is bad, so I talked to Mike about Susan. "Mom, I haven't heard anything. Are you sure it's not just in your head? That's what's stressing you out." "Mike, maybe you haven't heard, but I get calls every day. It's really tough. Could you talk to Susan?" "All right, I'll try." The day after this conversation, Susan called. Thinking Mike had spoken to her and expecting an apology, I answered. "Did you complain to Mike? Nasty woman. Just have the grandchild and get divorced. If you can't even have a baby, leave." She ranted like this for 2 hours. Fed up with Susan's attitude, I suggested to Mike we should see a doctor. But he was reluctant and said, "Why don't you go alone, Jane? The issue is usually with the woman, right?" "It's not my problem. We've been trying for a year and a half. It's better you go." He refused to even entertain the possibility it could be him. Resigned, I went to the doctor alone. The test showed I was normal. I showed the results to Mike when he got home from work and asked him to get tested too. Mike said, "Then what could it be? It's definitely not me." He said this even though he hadn't even tested it. I told Susan about it, but the test results must be wrong. "I got pregnant with Mike right away," she said with another snide remark. And from that day, Mike started coming home late more often. I spent 6 months visiting the hospital repeatedly. I couldn't dare discuss with my parents or friends that our second year of marriage had come to this. Pressured by the in-laws, Mike blamed me for our situation. I bore these troubles alone in my daily life. When I felt I was reaching my limit, I talked to my regular doctor. "So that's what's been happening. It's tough, isn't it? Trying to conceive is a couple's issue. Do you think it's difficult for Mike to come in for a test too?" I was at a loss for words. Seeing my distress, fertility issues can take over 3 years for some couples. Don't rush it. The doctor encouraged me. I could only say I'd discuss it with Mike and waited for him to come home to tell him. Then Mike revealed a shocking truth. "It turns out it was Jane's fault after all. I can have kids, so we're getting a divorce." "Can have kids? Divorce?" My mind was in a panic. I demanded an explanation from Mike. "There was this super cute girl at a party, and I've been dating her. Jane couldn't get pregnant, and Mom suggested I switch women, and guess what? She got pregnant in just 6 months. Maybe we're just a better match." "That's cheating. We've only been married 2 years." I've been dealing with the infertility and Susan's nagging all alone. Technically, it's cheating, but isn't it Jane's fault for not getting pregnant? But poor Jane. I'll give you a compensation. Thanks for all the pointless effort. And so, Mike and I divorced. As compensation, I received his entire savings of $20,000, but it left me feeling empty. On the day I moved out, Mike had his new girlfriend over, as if timed with my departure. She was flashy and 6 years younger than Mike. Her name was Emma, and as I was leaving, she looked me over and said, "Too bad for you. Sorry for stealing your beloved. We'll be happy together, the three of us." Emma's words pierced my heart. I held back tears and rushed out to my parents' house. This incident led me to a breakdown, and my parents suggested mental care at a clinic they knew. 16 years have passed since then. I now live a very happy life. I arrived early for a meeting today and sat on a nearby bench to kill time. As I reached into my bag for a book, a man stopped in front of me. Looking up, I was shocked to see Mike. "Is that Jane? What a coincidence meeting you here." "Why are you here?" "I recently moved to this town. Never thought I'd run into you here." As Mike mentioned, I had moved far away to avoid any chance encounter with him. Yet here he was, unexpectedly, in front of me. I left without saying a word. I didn't want to talk to Mike. I went into the cafe where I was meeting someone and sipped my coffee to calm down. Then, someone tapped my shoulder. Turning around, I saw Mike, Emma, and a teenage girl, apparently named Katie. Whether they followed me or it was a coincidence, I didn't know. Mike said to Emma, "I knew she'd be here." They must have seen me enter the cafe. When I asked what they wanted, Mike and Emma spitefully said, "Still infertile, huh? Pathetic. Our daughter is a knockout and a genius. Truly a pitiful middle-aged woman. You've lost all your charm as a woman." I never imagined they'd follow me just to say that. Appalled by Mike and his friend's childishness, I silently finished my coffee. Unable to respond, they laughed loudly. Their daughter was busy with her phone, indifferent. Just then, my meeting person arrived. "Sorry, I'm late. Rollo was slow in getting ready." "It wasn't Dad, it was you." "Wait, who are these people?" Approaching were my current husband and daughter. In fact, I remarried 9 years ago and have a daughter. My new husband, Ben, was the doctor who took care of me when I was mentally unwell right after my divorce. Our daughter, Rala, is in the 9th grade. Ben asked me out once my condition stabilized, saying he wanted to support me going forward. We dated for about 4 years, and it was Rala, then 7 years old, who asked Ben to become her dad, which led us to marry. I decided to get back at Mike and his group. "I'll introduce you to my 9th grade daughter, too." That girl? I've seen her before." Mike and his friends started searching something on their mobile phones. Then they looked back and forth between the phone and Rala. "Isn't that Rala, the model? I've been a fan. She's stylish and excels in her studies. But why is Rala here?" "She's my daughter. She was scouted on our way back from a high school orientation. She's beautiful, you know. We're about to have a family dinner. Can you leave now?" Mike and his friends didn't seem to want to leave. I didn't want to argue in front of Rala in the cafe. I was wondering what to do. "Seriously, this is embarrassing. Please let's go." Thanks to Kate saying that, Mike and his friends, who looked like they wanted to say more, reluctantly left the cafe. At dinner, Ben asked, "That was your ex-husband?" I told him about the chance encounter before coming to the cafe, that they followed me into the cafe and mocked me. Ben suggested we move again. Rala also said she wouldn't mind changing schools. But since we had to explain the situation to Ben's workplace, moving would have to wait a bit. About 3 weeks later, I was doing housework as usual when the doorbell rang. Thinking it was a delivery, I checked the monitor and saw Mike standing there. Wondering how he knew where I lived, I didn't want to face him and pretended not to be home. Watching the monitor, I felt scared seeing Mike just standing there, not leaving. Then he put something like a paper in the mailbox and left. I hesitantly checked it and found a mobile phone number. Below it was written, "Contact me. Otherwise, it'll be another unexpected visit." Chilled to the bone. I quickly called Ben and told him about what happened and the note's content. "Let's call him together when I'm off the day after tomorrow. We need to find out how he got the address. Then we'll go to the police." But Mike could come again before that. The next day, feeling scared to be alone, I asked a close mom friend to come over. Mike didn't show up during that time. On Ben's day off, we called Mike from his mobile phone. He picked up after a few rings and we put it on speakerphone. I started recording on my phone. Jane, so happy you called. I wanted to ask you something, so I went to your house. Were you not home? First, answer my question. How did you know where I live? Easy. I hired a detective. Told them my girlfriend wouldn't give me her address, and they believed it and found you. But I was surprised. Jane married a doctor. After money, huh? According to Mike, he lied about having a girlfriend who wouldn't give her address, and the detective agency found out where I lived. That's how he learned my husband was a psychiatrist. Shocked this was even possible, I asked why he hired a detective. I figured since your daughter's in 9th grade, she must have been conceived 16 years ago, right? Thought maybe... Yes, she's your child. I found out after we divorced. I knew it. I thought so. My daughter now is stylish and a genius, but she can't compare to the famous Rolla. I couldn't understand how he could say such things about the daughter he was so proud of. I told him not to come to my house again and to leave us alone. What are you talking about? You and Rolla are destined to be mine. I'll come to pick you up tomorrow. Be at home, okay? Otherwise, who knows what'll happen. Is that a threat? It's not a threat. If you could have kids, I would have taken you back. Mom and everyone would have been happy. Why didn't you tell me? I was told that, but at the time I was emotionally unstable myself. Finding out I was pregnant brought happiness, but I feared that telling him would lead to him asking me to come back, and tears involuntarily spilled. Day after day, I resolved to raise the child alone. I didn't tell Mike because I thought returning to him would only lead to more pain. I said, and Mike seemed irritated, his tone growing harsher. Painful life? What was so painful? Are you saying it was my fault or Mom's? Always blaming others and running away. Get real. Just divorce and come back and bring Rolla too. Got it? He said and abruptly hung up. So I went to the police with the recording. They assured me they'd patrol the area tomorrow, which gave me some relief. Ben spoke to his workplace and took the next day off as well. But that night, Mike called Ben. It seemed like both Mike and Emma were on the line, their voices audible. I recorded the call for safety and answered the phone. I have a proposition about our talk this afternoon. Is your husband there? He's here. What's this proposition? Well, it'll be quick then. Jane and Rolla will come to me, so Jane's current husband and Emma will be lonely, right? So I thought Jane's husband could take care of Emma and her family. I couldn't understand what Mike was trying to say. Emma seemed content with marrying a wealthy man. Ben and I couldn't follow their nonsensical conversation and exchanged puzzled looks. When we said we had no intention of divorcing and didn't want any further contact with Mike, Emma raised her voice. Wait! Don't joke! Your husband will obviously prefer me. I'm younger and more beautiful. I even quit my part-time job at the store because I heard I could marry a high-income guy. That's your choice, isn't it? You return to Mike and I become the wife of a rich man. Perfect, right? What's the problem? You're so selfish. Mike's words made no sense, nor did Emma's. The ones being unreasonable seemed to be them. Besides, Ben would never fall for Emma. She had grown 3 times larger since I first saw her with rough skin. Thick foundation, bright red lipstick, and overpowering perfume. Far from Ben's taste. And her greedy character only worsened her appeal. There is probably no man in this world who would fall in love with a woman like that, let alone Ben. As we were dumbfounded, a loud voice came from the phone. Enough! It's embarrassing for adults to behave like this. How much more trouble will you cause others? I've had enough. It seemed Kate was yelling at Mike and Emma. Despite being raised by such parents, Kate turned out well. I'm going to Grandma's. Can't live with you anymore. I called as soon as I heard you on the phone. Child services and the police will be here soon. I've decided to cut ties with you. At 16, Kate was old enough to express her wishes. Mike and Emma, flustered by her words, neglected our call, so we hung up. That night, Mike and Emma showed up at our house. Open up. Kate's gone, so we can live with you now. Let's live together, the 3 of us. Me, Jane, and Rolla. She's way better than a rebellious daughter. Then, let's have fun together. Open up. I can still have children. They banged on the door, pressing the doorbell repeatedly, shouting these things. Ben and I went to the door, but didn't open it. Ben replied, Stop it. I'm not leaving Jane. and Rolla is indeed our child. Now, we called the police as soon as you arrived. But Mike and Emma didn't leave, thinking it was a bluff. Kate was quite a girl, but Rolla is even better. Her chest is bigger too. I could even just take Rolla if you want. How can you see your daughter like that? I said it because she's a woman. Women are women, right? What I do with mine is my business. What's wrong with that? Mike's words were chilling. He seemed to see Rolla as a woman. Emma, too, was more interested in getting money from Rolla than confronting Mike's statements. I felt a deep disdain for such hopeless people, but as they continued causing a scene at the door, I worried about disturbing the neighbors. Just then the police arrived. They looked surprised and tried to escape, tangling each other's feet, but were caught. I just came to pick up my daughter. I've done nothing to be arrested for. I haven't done anything either. Just came to pick up my prince. Let go of me. They desperately tried to escape, but the police held firm. Mike became enraged and shoved one of the officers, leading to their arrest for obstructing public duties. I was relieved Rolla wasn't there to witness this. Seeing such a scene could have traumatized her. A week later, Kate visited us. She found our address from a note Mike had left and apologized at the door, so we invited her in for coffee. She tearfully revealed her past. Kate had suffered mild abuse from Mike, and Emma turned a blind eye, neglecting her. She hardly had proper meals, surviving on a single sweet bun most days. School lunches helped until middle school, and she spent weekends at her grandmother's. Emma's parents were strict and disapproved of Mike and Emma, but adored Kate, allowing her to visit. Kate had never spoken about her mistreatment, and revealed that Emma's parents had been funding her education. Mike's behavior escalated in high school, and when she couldn't bear it anymore, she contacted the police and child services after overhearing their loud call to us. Emma's parents offered her a home, saying she should live with them. I'm sorry for the trouble my parents caused. I've always admired Rolla and wanted to apologize. Sorry for showing up unannounced. You're a victim too. No need to apologize. It must have been hard. Kate smiled. I'll be fine from now on, saying, we chatted and learned Rolla would attend the same high school as Kate. Let's get along. I tell you. I gave her my contact information and she left in the evening. That night, I told Ben and Rolla about Kate's visit. Rolla said, I'm looking forward to the new school. We continued preparing for the move. The move and Rolla's school transfer went smoothly. Kate later informed us that Mike and Emma were sentenced to prison. They had committed theft and nuisance behaviors with several charges emerging. They wouldn't be out for years. And with substantial debts, they couldn't lead a normal life. Emma's parents disowned them, and Mike's parents, who adored Kate but never financially helped, were also estranged. Mike's parents were heartbroken at losing contact with their granddaughter. Since then, we've led a peaceful life. Kate became much happier and closer to Rolla, often staying over during weekends. We maintained a good relationship with Emma's parents. Infertility is a delicate issue. Assumptions can be hurtful. Like me, many are pressured and end up mentally distressed. So Mike, Emma, and his parents were responsible for their actions. I hope for a peaceful life for our family